Coming your way on today's San Francisco 49ers report, Brock Purdy going into this weekend's game against the I messed up. Not against the San Francisco 49ers, against the Seattle Seahawks. Type F Chase in the chat. Boo! F Chase in the chat. Boo! Boo! F Chase in the chat. Boo! F Chase. F Chase. All right. Let's act like that never happened. Just continue to boo me. We'll get over it together because I can't wait for this segment. Great numbers to get to. And now let's get to it. Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers report, why Brock Purdy has a serious case to be named NFL MVP. A win against the Philadelphia Eagles on the road has vaulted him up the NFL MVP ladder. And depending on which sports book you look at, Brock Purdy, odds-on favorite with Dak Prescott to be named NFL MVP going into Sunday's game against the Seattle Seahawks. They have the same odds. Dak Prescott, 3-1. Brock Purdy, 3-1. And after Brock Purdy was able to beat Jalen Hurts in the head-to-head matchup, Hurts, who went into last week as the odds-on favorite to win NFL MVP, has dropped to plus 350. Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs offense really slipping in recent weeks, down to plus 650, and then Tua Tagovailoa at 8-1 odds. Obviously, to start us off, the MVP conversation has to come down to the numbers that individual player is putting up. So to start this conversation, we must take a look at the numbers for Brock Purdy this year. He is completing an astounding 70.2% of his throws this year. That is number one in the NFL. A lot of detractors like to say, Brock Purdy hasn't thrown for a ton of yards. He's helped out by a great supporting cast and a good coach in Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy, ladies and gentlemen, has thrown for nearly 3,200 yards in 12 games so far this year. And by the way, he is 9-3. He's thrown 23 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He also leads all quarterbacks in yards per attempt by more than a full yard at 9.6. You want to call him a dink and dunk quarterback? The numbers prove otherwise. His quarterback rating, number one in the NFL, also at 116.1. Furthermore, you look at Purdy and where he ranks among all quarterbacks. A lot of people have been asking for these numbers all throughout this week in the comment section, and we're providing for the faithful. As I noted, completion percentage, 70.2, number one in the NFL. His yards per attempt number one among all quarterbacks. His QBR at 75.6 and his quarterback rating, both number one, 75.6 and 116.1, is nearly flawless for those of you not familiar. His passing touchdowns, he's fourth in the NFL right now at 23. So don't tell me that San Francisco is only successful and Brock Purdy is only successful because they run the football so much. He has 23 passing touchdowns in 12 games this year. And oh yeah, passing yards, he's 7th. Yards per game, he's 8th at 265.4. And right now, Brock Purdy, going into this matchup against the Seahawks, as San Francisco looks to pull off the sweep once again for the second straight year, is on pace for 4,511 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Anybody would have dreamed of Brock Purdy putting up those numbers, and nobody thought that Purdy was going to put up those types of numbers. He has been even better than advertised. And a popular argument among a lot of people out there who don't think that Brock Purdy has a serious case to be made to win NFL MVP. Brock Purdy, so many of his passing yards come after the catch. And then another popular argument. Brock Purdy is lifted up because of his supporting cast with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey. Look, a quarterback's job is to execute. How many quarterbacks have we seen at the NFL level who are taller, who have a stronger arm, who are a better athlete, who got drafted well ahead of Brock Purdy, who couldn't even complete an out route into the flat, who couldn't complete a wide open deep ball to a wide receiver streaking downfield? Brock Purdy is asked to execute. That's his job, and he does it. And for those of you who were saying, all of his yards come after the catch. David Lombardi tweeted these numbers out, and this is pretty telling. The percentage of yards after the catch for the last 3 MVPs. 52% of Aaron Rodgers' total yards came after the catch in 2020. And then in 2021, that number, very similar, at 52.7. Last year, when Patrick Mahomes won MVP, 54.3% of his passing yards came after the catch. Where is Brock Purdy here? Not only is he at 48.6%, but that's 4 percentage points lower than Aaron Rodgers in 2020 and 2021, and 6 percentage points below Patrick Mahomes last year. So what is your argument right now? And then you go back to the weapon conversation. We're going to act like Joe Montana and Steve Young didn't have the likes of Jerry Rice, Roger Craig, Ricky Watters, and others. We're going to act like successful quarterbacks throughout the course of NFL history haven't had good weapons. A reason why quarterbacks win Super Bowls is because of their play, of course, and them putting on the straps and carrying the squad. But it's also because they're talented football teams. What's also crazy is how eerily similar Joe Montana's MVP season in 1989 was compared with what Brock Purdy's been able to do here in 2023. How about this graphic? Producer Chip cooking this one up. Type Chip in the chat. Joe Montana that year played 13 games. Brock Purdy so far has played 12. Montana in 1989 threw for 3,521 yards. Brock Purdy, 3,185. So Joe Montana, with one more game, had more passing yards. Can Purdy make that argument a little bit closer with the big performance against the Seahawks this Sunday? Yeah, he can. Touchdowns. 26 for Montana in one more game, and then Brock Purdy with 23. Joe Montana threw more picks in one more game. 8 to Purdy's 6. And this is where it really gets fun, wonky, crazy. Touchdown percentage. Joe Montana 6.7, Brock Purdy 6.9. Completion percentage identical, 70.2 for both of these players. So is Purdy getting enough MVP love? That's really the big debate in the Bay Area and for Niner fans worldwide. I don't think so right now. People are sleeping on what he's doing, and I think a lot of the analysis has just been outright lazy. People just look at numbers and they think about what the Niners have done in the past, and this is another classic case of draftism. If Brock Purdy was a first-round pick, everybody would be salivating over what he's doing right now. But because he's Mr. Relevant and because he's a little bit smaller and he doesn't have a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes type of arm, they're sleeping on the kid. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time, by the way. If you're looking to go to this Niners-Seahawks game, get your tickets with the Game Time app. Prices drop as the event gets closer. You can get $20 off as well using the code NinersChat. With the Game Time app, it's a free download, and you get the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. And as I noted, still tickets available for the Seahawks-Niners game. And all different types of price points, all different types of vantage points, and you can sit really wherever you want. For instance, Section 414, Row 9, those tickets going for just $209. If you want to sit Section 406 and get kind of a diagonal view of the football field, those tickets available right now for $189. So $20 off using the code NinersChat. You redeem that code. That's how you're able to save, and it allows you to support the show as well. I love using this app. If you don't want to go to an NFL game or it's a little bit too steep for you, you can also go to a comedy show like I did this past weekend with a couple of friends here at Chat Sports, or you can even go to a theater event. All types of options for you. NBA games, Major League Baseball games, college athletics. Check it out on the Game Time app. We continue this debate and this conversation about Brock Purdy here. The haters will say, Brock Purdy only throws slants and bubble screens. He's a check down Charlie. It's Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey, as well as the play designs and the play calling of Kyle Shanahan, who lift him up and make him look good? Well, actually, Brock Purdy can throw the ball downfield, and since replacing Jimmy Garoppolo last year, he has unlocked a completely different element of this Niners offense, and that's the deep ball. On throws of 20-plus yards since Week 8, Brock Purdy has been surgical. And at the intermediate area of the field, 10 to 19 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, he's been the most efficient quarterback in the National Football League this year. But look at these numbers since Week 8. 14 of 20 on throws of 20-plus air yards, 451 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, and a Pro Football Focus passing grade of 99.9. His pocket feel and his pocket mobility are great. His athleticism is underrated. His ability, his accuracy, his anticipation to layer footballs in, but to also excel with the deep ball, all of those attributes and skills to his game have become criminally underrated just because of where Brock Purdy was drafted. And what's wild is that Brock Purdy has not gotten great pass protection this year, yet he's still been able to be unconscious in the pocket. Look at his quarterback efficiency and pass protection. What this graph basically shows you, and I'm not an overly analytical nerd, but when it helps the argument here and helps paint the picture, Brock Purdy has been the most efficient quarterback in the NFL with not great pass protection. He has not had the opportunity to throw from a lot of clean pockets. A lot of people want to pinpoint Dak Prescott as the MVP this year. I understand that. They have had an incredibly weak schedule, and I think that Purdy has even been better, and Purdy outplayed him in the head-to-head matchup. But this graph here really is insane as I step aside because the efficiency numbers are out of this world and the pass protection hasn't been all that great. On passing, EPA per play on non-screens. You want to tell me that all Brock Purdy does is check it down and throw screens? Well, he's the number one quarterback in passing EPA, expected points added per play on non-screens, ahead of Dak Prescott, ahead of Josh Allen, ahead of Tua, and Jalen Hurts. And then on screens, his passing EPA per play, also number one in the NFL, ahead of Dak Prescott, ahead of Patrick Mahomes, ahead of Tua Tagovailoa, and ahead of Derek Carr. Kyle Posey of Niners Nation put together some wild stats as well. The 49ers are 16-0 when Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and Deebo Samuel start and finish the game. They have outscored their opponents in those 16 games 529 to 239. 12 of those 16 wins have been by 13 plus points. And he added this to put things in perspective. If what we're watching feels like something that you haven't seen before, and the Niners' point differential backs this up as well, Kyle Posey adding, it's because you haven't. And we really haven't seen this level of play, and Brock Purdy deserves credit for the level of play that he's been able to display. So in summary, does Brock Purdy have a case to win NFL MVP? Of course he does. He's leading the best team in the NFL right now. He is atop multiple quarterback categories. The 49ers right now are number one in Super Bowl odds, and they wouldn't be if it wasn't for the play of Brock Purdy. He has individual team efficiency, but the team has been efficient on the offensive end. And Brock Purdy right now, this is a large sample size. We're talking 14-3 record in the regular season, and he's basically 2-0 in the NFL playoffs because he was hurt so early in that NFC Championship game against Philadelphia. And now he's starting to stack quality wins against Dallas, against Philadelphia on the road. Sometimes you just got to give people their flowers. And right now, whether you're a Brock Purdy detractor, you got to be impressed with what he's been able to do. Sub for Niners dubs if you want year-round coverage of San Francisco. Then make sure you hit that sub button. Hope you all enjoyed today's show. A lot of people have been asking for us to do a breakdown of Brock Purdy, so we did it for the homies.